Nate's taking a quick break. So Fitz, jump right in. Tell us what's going on with recruiting over the last couple of days.
Well, it's that summer roller coaster, and I think we just hit a dip yesterday. Penn State missed out. Matthew Outten, Brent Pry took him at Virginia Tech. That's a really good get for Brent Pry. This was not a situation where Penn State looked elsewhere or anything like that. They flat out got beat for Matthew Outten. Part of me romanticizes about recruiting, how it was, and this is a Virginia kid going to Virginia Tech, so good for him. I think he's a really talented player. I think he's going to be really exciting in Tyler Bowen's offense and what they're able to do down there. But that's a sting for Penn State. That's one they thought they were, pretty well in on. It was actually pretty funny to me. Penn State thought they were battling Maryland. Maryland thought they were battling Penn State. Virginia Tech won out. So this is not a situation that you felt NIL was like overwhelming or anything like that. This is a situation where I think he found what he thought was his best fit. Virginia kid going to play Virginia Tech. And again, really good get for Brent Pye. And, Penn State's got a pivot there. They still got targets out there at wide receiver. Of course, I think the top two everybody looks at as Lex Cyrus and Taz Williams have sort of bubbled up to the top. I know Samari Reed's supposed to announce tomorrow, and there's a couple other guys that are in that atmosphere there. But those are the guys that we're looking at for receiver right there.
Can I go back to Outten just for 1 second? Because this is a conversation. You say that about Penn State thinking it's Maryland thinking it's Penn State, and then suddenly it's Virginia Tech. Is this a case of the player being so opaque in his recruiting process where he doesn't talk to anybody? Or is there some other miscommunication there among the people involved?
Yeah, I think it's the former. If you followed our stuff with Matthew Outten, our consistent theme was not really sure what he's thinking because he's very quiet, didn't talk to us, doesn't talk to a lot of coaches or anything like that, kind of handled it all on his own. So I think that's really where you get that read. It was just very funny that both those schools thought they were going heads up against each other, and then it turned out to be the third one. So it's not sad that you lose a player to Virginia Tech. There's a Virginia guy. He's a guy that honestly Brent Pry came in with the same sort of initial statement that James Franklin did in Virginia. He said they got to lock down Virginia. Penn State really rated Virginia when Justin Fuente was there. Justin Fuente did a bad job, left a bad roster. For Brent to be in the situation that he is, like keeping his head above water right now, considering what they had, is pretty good. I'm not sure how they're going to be this year, but at least there's something to sell there. There's a turnaround that you can sell there, and I think Matthew Outten saw that and thought that he could be a featured player in that. I also think that location is tricky with Virginia Tech because they've had such an amazing run of Virginia Tidewater players, and then you pull out a map, it's nowhere close. Like, it's not easy to get to. I mean, we talk about a state college being out in the middle of nowhere. Blacksburg faces some similar things, and they have to bring that back around. I know this is not a Virginia Tech show, but they have to bring that pull back to the Tidewater area with Michael Vick and all those guys. Had a ton of success there. So I think that it's a feather in the cap for Brent Pry to go out and win this one back. And it's another gut punch for Penn State in this 2025 cycle.
I won't bring up Peyton Falzone then, if we're not going to be diving into the Virginia Tech conversation. Do you want to go with other misses that are important from last week, or do you want to move on to Penn State's committed players?
We can do Falzone. I mean, it's not rocket science there, right? Like, Virginia Tech is going to give him a chance to play quarterback. Penn State wants him as a tight end. You're a 16, 17-year-old kid. What are you picking there? Obviously. Right. So, I mean, we saw this with Tyler Warren years ago. I don't know how Peyton is going to, bubble up as a Division I, like, legitimate Power 4 conference quarterback, but, he's athletic enough to do a lot of things. And we're going to keep watching that just in case. But it's just an interesting sort of juxtaposition how it went exactly like Tyler Warren's went, because Tyler was a quarterback at one point. He thought he was going to play quarterback at Virginia Tech. Yeah. He wasn't good enough. We're going to see if Peyton Falzone where he lands, because you give a kid a chance to play the position he wants versus a chance to play the position he's never played, but probably will end up being successful at. I mean, what are you going to do in that situation? So, suffice to call it a loss, but it's sort of an apples and oranges comparison right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Where was our next topic? Where were we going again?
I was going to let you pick if you wanted to talk about some of the other misses last week, or if you wanted to dive right into the recruiting wins.
Let's dive into the recruiting wins. We just we dialed it back there for a little bit. Let's go back into the recruiting wins. Of course, the last time I talked to you guys was the morning that Troy Huhn committed, 2026 quarterback from California. This is a guy we've been watching. We put our picks in last week, and the dominoes have fallen to Penn State. This is it's been interesting to watch with Dia Bell, with Brady Hart, with Faison Brandon, with Troy Huhn. Those were the four that we identified. I know there's other guys with check marks by their names, but those were the four that Penn State really identified. Hune found himself in a situation where he really liked Michigan. He really liked Penn State. Those were kind of his top two. And then all of a sudden, another guy, Brady Hart, whose top two we heard was Penn State and Michigan as well, committed to Michigan. Well, domino, there you go. Penn State has a quarterback in 2026. Again, some things to clean up in his delivery, but one of the best. I mean, we're going to play the drinking game where you say arm talent and you take a drink, because that's what
Yeah.
football. Excited to see what he's able to do as he continues to mature. They ask him to do. I don't know, T. Frank. You've watched some full games. How much have they asked him to do compared to what they're going to ask him at the college level?
Yeah, so I haven't dug into that. I apologize. I haven't dug into that specifically, trying to get through the 25 guys.
Asking a question you're not prepared for. Interesting. Yeah.
My main thing is that I like some of the baseline stuff he has from that delivery perspective and the arm strength. The when he wants to put some mustard on the football, I think there are some times where he needs to correct some overstriding and getting everything back in line. But yeah, I apologize from that particular perspective of reading coverages. There's a lot of RPOs that you see there on the film, so that is part of Andy Kolinke's offense. I see why they like him, but also those are things that translate on a very specific level. They don't have the next level secondary progression read sort of thing.
Good. I got one of those in there. So also missed Jaden Woods, defensive end from Kansas. I know you watched him a little bit this week. Really athletic kid. Maybe not the biggest frame in the world, about 6'3 plus 215. He's going to continue to get bigger, but you like the athletic profile that he puts together. Someone put out a 40-inch vertical or something like that. I can't verify that and know that's true or anything like that, but it's a lot to look at. He's got a lot of burst off the edge. And if you look at what Penn State's doing, the success that they've had at defensive end, of course, got Max Granville. Now you add Jayden Woods to the mix. All of a sudden, that group where we thought, hey, what's going to happen on the defensive line? You're trying to think, oh, well, who do they have to tap the brakes on now? And how's this going to affect Deshaun Burnett? And how's this going to affect some other guys in that sort of role right there? So a nice little turnaround for Deion Barnes. And Jayden Woods, a good pickup for Penn State. And I'll go right into Jeff Exinor. Jeff Exinor committed to Penn State midweek last week, announced on Friday night. Just my little off-kilter spiel here. The Friday night commitment is kind of the worst in terms of branding, in terms of like reach and things like that. Not a lot of people on the internet at Friday night. I'm going to say the same for July 4th, just in case anyone is listening. But Jeff Exinor, again, he was one of my top 5 receivers when we did that list a couple of weeks ago. This is a guy, it's physical. I'm very curious to see where he's at from a physical athletic perspective 2 years into the program, because he's already got the size. He's got the athleticism. I love that 4.3 shuttle that he's put together at 217 pounds. That's moving. That is a really, really positive number right there. So I'm excited to see what he's able to put together. On the flip side, Brandon Finney, his teammate, we thought was coming to Penn State. He's now going to Oregon. There's been a theme in college football recruiting in the last couple of weeks, and that is Oregon is they mean it. They did this to Penn State. They did this to Ohio State. They got Dorian Brew. They did this to Texas. They're not just messing with underlings here. They're taking on some of the biggest programs in the country, and they're winning. They have a lot of capital to back that up. They are doing some things that other programs can't do, and they are winning recruiting battles because of it. Is it the right strategy? I don't know, but we're going to see what happens with guys like Brandon Finney and as they get closer to National Signing Day. But man, Oregon is not to be trifled with right now.
Yeah, that was something we covered last week, and it's a pretty clear trend in football right now that there are certain situations where NIL is absolutely part of the conversation. It is something that is going to be a part for as long as the current situation continues. So let's get into what I think a lot of people want to know about, which is the next phase in recruiting. Everyone loves, like, okay, as soon as a recruit comes on board, it's what's next? What's next? What's next? Keep the party going. So the remaining recruits that you're focused on for this first week of July, and then heading into the second week of July, which I know there's a couple guys in that particular situation.
Would they go like 5 straight days with a commit last week or something like that? And then
Yeah.
the 6th day, we're like, hey guys, what's wrong? What's going on?
Yeah.
Again, math.
Thursday's quiet. What's going on?
Math does not work like that. You've got 25, roughly 25 commits in this cycle, 365 days. Do a little division. 5 and 5 days is nice. It's fun, but it leaves something open on the back end there. But there's still stuff left out there. 20 commits right now, and you look at what they still need, and you think of that 25 ballpark number, and it's very much a ballpark number. The 85 is what they're up against, but also we've talked about that number really doesn't matter anymore. So the number's a lot looser than they used to be. They'll figure that out. They've got creative math geniuses on the staff, whatever. But receiver, a big need right there. Lex Cyrus and Taz Williams, the two that I'm looking at heaviest right now. I think we're going to see a decision from Lex Cyrus this week. I think that decision is still yet to be made. It's probably closer than many would think, especially coming out of that official visit from Penn State the first weekend of June. We thought, he was ready to get going. But that wasn't the case. South Carolina is still in there as well for the speedster from Susquehanna Township. Taz Williams is a guy that, you just keep looking at the feedback, and Penn State seems to just keep growing on this one. Michigan has gotten some other guys. Andrew Marsh was a big key for Michigan, and then all of a sudden you pivot away from that. Texas A&M might be in the same situation, so now SMU back in the picture. So all these schools coming in, but I think Penn State has done a really good job of being the consistent, hey, we want you, we want you, we want you. And I think there's some other receivers on the board, probably a little bit below Taz Williams here, but like Taz is kind of the guy that they're feeling pretty good about right now. I would say, I think July 13th is his commitment date. So it'll be a couple of weeks before we know how these things shake out. But yeah, with Outten off the board, it's closing time. I mean, this is a big stretch for Marcus Hagans and for James Franklin and these guys, because I mean, how many more of these body blows can you sustain? Lex Cyrus goes elsewhere. That's a bad look. If Taz Williams, with what we know about his recruitment, would end up elsewhere, that's a bad look. So got to continue, got to get back on that track. I think they can do it, but I don't think it's a sure thing.
Yeah, so a blow to not have Matthew Outten. I wrote earlier this week, I think hours before he committed, what's an ideal class of the remaining recruits? And I think ideally you get 5 guys, and you want guys with high upside, including Lex Cyrus and Matthew Outten. If they miss on both of those guys, then the conversation and honestly the perception of Penn State's wide receiver room and recruiting, that continues. That's a hard road to hoe if you continue to have that particular perception of receivers don't go to Penn State. So as much as you might win 1 or 2 of these, it feels like, you always say there are no must-get recruits, but this receiver position, it has to start improving at some point. It has to start, the trend has to continue forward instead of being stagnant at some point.
Yeah, and I think they will. Like, I think that there's been a lot of turnover this offseason. I think that's helped. I think that's gotten guys that can get to the level that they're capable of getting to. They're not afraid to take that step. And it felt like last year, given what was in the room, some others were afraid to take that step. And I'm excited to see how that goes. Of course, I'm a hopeful guy. I'm an optimistic guy. I want to see it happen, especially with the guys that they have on campus. I think there's a bunch of good kids in that room. It's just a matter of taking that next step, being those alpha dogs and getting up there. Can they do it? I think they're capable of doing it. But again, we keep saying athleticism is not the issue. Talent's not the issue. At some point, that stuff has to come to the surface. So that's where I'm at with that.
Hey, it's T. Frank. Did you enjoy that video? Hope you did. I can't get you another one. Actually, yes, I can. You can click on the link here in this part of the video to go to another Blue White Illustrated video. So if you liked it, subscribe here to the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel. You can also do that by clicking on this interactive link that I'm pointing vaguely to. Super helpful. Also, if you want more from Blue White Illustrated, go to bluewhiteillustrated.com and use our special promo code that you're getting right here. Subscribe for 2 months. You get it for just $1 using promo code PSU1. That's promo code PSU1 over at bluewhiteillustrated.com. You can check out the link in the description of this video to go right there. I try to make it as easy as I can. I just can't get click it for you. That's the only, I can't reach over and click the buttons for you. You got to do that part.